Like,
Because you didn't announce it.
yeah.
A few of them do.
I know.
Today we are discussing
Bisexuality.
bisexual education.
Awareness and education.
Yes. I'm your resident bisexual for the night. Sorry you're saddled with me and just me, but
Hey.
this year, I don't know if any of you went to last year's meeting. It's going to be a lot different than last year. Last year we talked about stereotypes and stigmas that come with bisexual people. This year we're going to talk a little bit. I'm just going to assume that everybody knows that stereotypes of bisexual people are cheaters and promiscuous and we have to be with two people at once are not true, and we're going to go from there. So, a lot of the problems that I'm discussing three main problems, but when I talk about them, a lot of them can actually be, they're the same problems that a lot of different identities in the LGBTQ community face as well. So you can keep these in mind for asexual people, transgender people, all types of queer people. A lot of these problems are the same for the less visible people, just people who aren't just lesbian and gay, you know. So I want to start by reading the 1990 Bisexual Manifesto.
Oh, sorry.
What? Oh, yeah, no, sorry, you're right. Quick breakdown of what's about to happen. I'm going to talk about the things that I have prepared, and then we're going to do an open Q&A for any questions, comments you guys have. And Aiden will also be your resident
It'll be a
bisexual.
panel. So.
Yeah, it'll be a small panel of us. So that's, yeah, I will talk, and then we have Q&A, and that's what's going to happen. All right, so the Bisexual Manifesto, it was published in 1990 in Anything That Moves magazine, and it's incredibly relevant even today. And it says, "We are tired of being analyzed, defined, and represented by people other than ourselves, or worse yet, not considered at all. We are frustrated by the imposed isolation and the invisibility that comes from being told or expected to choose either a homosexual or heterosexual identity. Monosexuality is a heterosexual dictate used to oppress homosexuals and to negate the validity of bisexuality. Bisexuality is a whole, fluid identity. Do not assume that bisexuality is binary or duogamous in nature, that we have two sides or we must be involved simultaneously with both genders to be fulfilled human beings. In fact, don't assume that there are only two genders. Do not mistake our fluidity for confusion, irresponsibility, or an inability to commit. Do not equate promiscuity, infidelity, or unsafe sexual behavior with bisexuality. Those are human traits that cross all sexual orientations. Nothing should be assumed about anyone's sexuality, including your own. We are angered by those who refuse to accept our existence, our issues, our contributions, our alliances, our voice. It is time for the bisexual voice to be heard." So I just really love that. So, okay, I'm going to be talking about three topics tonight, which is bi-erasure, pansexuality versus bisexuality, and straight passing. So we're going to go ahead and start with bi-erasure. Bi-erasure is the oftentimes intentional lack of representation of bisexuality, the tendency to ignore or remove bisexuality in history, academia, and media, sometimes denying the existence of bisexuality as a whole. And it's not just a problem in the mainstream, it's not just a problem in heterosexual groups, it's a problem in the LGBTQ community as well. So one thing that comes with bi-erasure, being told that bisexuality is not legitimate, something that you get a lot, any bisexual person can tell you that they've been told it's just a phase or you're just confused. And I find the best response to this is, I'm bisexual, you're confused. So bi-erasure can sometimes come from trying to avoid having to question sexuality at all. I mean, if bisexuality is not visible in the media or anywhere, then people won't question so much. They will fit into one role or another because we as people like like to split things into neat little groups, and as we all know, gender and sexuality are a little bit more messy than that, and we're that messy group that people try to avoid. The lack of visibility that comes from bi-erasure, like I said, people, do you guys remember when I Kissed a Girl came out and everyone was freaking out? Well, when that song came out, I was right about to go into high school, I think, and people, I'm sorry, man. People around me started questioning their sexuality, girls especially, and that was such an outrage to a lot of people because we try to keep that out of the media. We try to keep that out of children's heads, you know, that you can be something other than heterosexual or homosexual. So something that comes from bi-erasure is bisexual people are constantly being assumed to be straight or gay. And this happens whether you're alone or in couples. I obviously am presenting as female cisgendered, and therefore I'm also very assumed to be heterosexual because, you know, I have long hair and I wear skirts. And that's really frustrating. And this is actually a problem a lot more in a couple. I have a boyfriend. I have a boyfriend who is a cisgendered, heterosexual male, but that does not mean that I'm heterosexual now. That does not mean that I'm less bisexual or, you know, I'm not in a straight couple. To have a straight couple, you need straight people, and he's the only straight person in our relationship. So, also, if our experiences are constantly being questioned due to the lack of visibility and the erasing of our identity, you don't know that you're bisexual unless you've been with both genders. Apparently, even though you know you're not asexual, even if you've never had sex, so it's a big problem. Like, it's the erasing of our identity can cause to people being skeptical of us, of anything we say, which is incredibly offensive. So this is really evident. Bi-erasure gets really evident in bisexual people, actually, because I remember when, like I said, everyone started questioning their sexuality and coming out as bisexual, and I myself have said, oh, she's not really bisexual, you know, she's just doing it for attention. You know when someone's really bisexual. I was saying this about somebody who stated what their identity was, and because they were bisexual, I questioned that. I automatically assumed that they were lying. The fact that this has gone so deep to be in our own community shows that it's really, really a relevant problem. So, and I know you guys are in the LGBTQ community, you know that you've heard people say that bisexual men are just gay. They're just gay, who don't really want to commit to being gay yet. And bisexual women are just slutty. They're really straight. They're just, you know, experimenting. And this view is everywhere, and it's incredibly patriarchal because, you know, the end goal is getting with a man. But, you know, you have to believe someone when they say what their sexuality is, even if you think they're just going through a phase. That's not your place to say. In the media, bisexual people are either outright ignored or demonized. It's not even referred to, it's invalidated, it's shown as immoral and irrelevant. So I have a list of 4 people you probably didn't know are bisexual. Lady Gaga. Some of you guys might know that, but I did not. I did not know Lady Gaga was bisexual because it's never talked about. Not only is it never talked about, but it is also, she gets a lot of people claiming that she's not, that she's just saying she is to fit in with the LGBTQ community. It's a marketing strategy. That's clear evidence of bi erasure, that someone really couldn't be bisexual. They're just doing it for other motives. Another person is Alan Cumming. He's a pretty successful actor. I know him from Floop and Spy Kids, and I don't know if any of you have seen Josie and the Pussycats. He was the manager. Yeah, those are the movies I watch. But
thanks for letting me feel old twice already tonight. Thanks.
He's a pretty successful actor.
Which one is he?
He's the
In the
guy.
first one, he's the bad guy.
Oh, he's the
No.
guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
him.
he's the one who actually runs the TV show and then later.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
He's also on Good Wife.
mhm. He's a really successful actor, and I had no idea he was bisexual. And it's funny because you always know, the artists and actors who are gay and lesbian. Ellen DeGeneres. Everyone knows Ellen is lesbian. Everyone knows that Lance Bass is gay, you know? Everyone knows the minute somebody comes out. But you don't really see bisexual people because it's not talked about, because it's seen as irrelevant. It's seen as not important. And that's a really, really good example of people taking bisexual people and relabeling them in bi erasure is Olympic swimmer Tom Daley. He, a while back, a couple months ago, or more than a few months ago, he came out with a video on YouTube.
That wasn't that long ago, was it? It was like a month ago. I'm in love with him. He is hot as hell. It was like a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be
It was a
today.
few months ago.
I
Anyway,
know, I hate those students too.
at some point before, he came out in a video on YouTube, and he said that he has a boyfriend now. And it's his first serious relationship, and he's had a relationship with girls before, but they weren't very serious. And he still likes girls, but he is dating a man, and he's happy. And even though he never once said gay or homosexual, the media immediately jumped on that story as Tom Daley comes out as gay, which was very disheartening for the bisexual community, because we need positive role models, we need the visibility, and it was immediately taken from us before we could even celebrate having this positive role model. That a lot of you don't know, we have a bisexual congresswoman. Her name is Kristen Sinema. The minute Tammy Baldwin was elected to Congress, I knew she was gay. Everyone was like, first lesbian congresswoman, and I had no idea that Kristen Sinema even existed. And it's frustrating. It's showing, because we're told that being gay is a big part of your identity, being straight's a big part of your identity, but being bisexual doesn't really matter. It's shrugged off. And this isn't just happening in the mainstream media. This also happens in LGBTQ news. When incredibly popular bisexual activist Robin Oakes was one of the first people to be married to someone of the same sex in America, she was mislabeled by tons of LGBTQ news as a lesbian, as one of the first lesbian couples to be married. Robin Oakes literally wrote the book on being bisexual. It's called Getting Bi. And she was still mislabeled. And then on the other end of that, in 1988, Annie DeFranco married her husband, and she was seen as renouncing lesbianism. A lot of LGBTQ people were just didn't even entertain the thought that she could be bisexual, and so this is a problem in the queer communities as well. Okay, so all of that, and so much more. That's just hitting the surface of it. Is bi erasure, and it's so incredibly damaging, because a lot of people don't even know that bisexuality exists until later in their lives. And for bisexual people, that can cause identity crisis. That can lead to thoughts of depression, thoughts of suicide. Bisexual people actually have one of the highest rates of suicide as compared to homosexual and heterosexual people. By the way, if you'd like any of this statistics and where I'm getting this stuff, you can see me. I have all bookmarked on my computer. But anyway, so it's incredibly damaging to not have the representation, to not know where you fit, to feel like an outcast. At its most violent, bi erasure rips away our history and redefines it, meaning that we don't have a history to hold on to for ourselves because there are certain historical figures that straight people take that were bi and say, no, there's no way, they were straight, and they hide away any of the evidence saying that they were, even questioning their sexuality. And then the same exact thing, like I mentioned before, happens in the queer community. We are told, oh, they were gay, they were lesbian, and it's really hard to not know where your culture, because bisexual people have been around as long as everybody else, and a lot of people don't know that. They think it's a trend. I know my mother, when I came out, told her that I was following a trend, and that it was just a new thing and stuff, and that can be really harmful in family situations. So next I want to talk about pansexuality versus bisexuality. And this is a really, really hot topic. It can get debated over a lot. If you've ever been in a bisexual community before, you know this, that it comes up often. So basically, the general textbook definition of pansexuality is being attracted to people of all genders on the entire gender spectrum, including non-binary people. And the general textbook definition for bisexuality is being attracted to both sexes that are recognized by the gender binary. Well, the bisexual community did not like that, that definition because they felt it to be transphobic and enforcing the gender binary, so they've moved away from that, and they've started going by a more inclusive definition that is very similar, overlaps a lot with pansexuality, and a lot of people who are not bisexual get really mad about this. And the thing is, if you're really, really mad that these definitions are similar or the same, then you have to ask yourself, why? Why are you so upset about this? I mean, I know a lot of lesbian girls who just say, I'm gay, and they're two different things, but they overlap in meaning, and I don't see anyone getting up in arms about it. And the point is, the movement was to be more inclusive, so which should be a good thing. And there are a lot of definitions now for bisexuality. I get a lot of the argument that comes also is there are people who are just very hard-pressed on the prefix of bi meaning two. And I don't really like that argument because jellyfish aren't made of jelly and they're not actually fish. If that's your problem with the term bisexuality, you're going to have a lot of problems with the English language because it doesn't always like to follow the things it says. Not also, plus that, language changes. Things don't mean the same thing that they used to mean. You know, definitions can change. That's just part of language. So the bottom line is the only definition that matters is the definition used by the community. Do not decide that you know better than a bisexual person and tell them what their sexuality means. Do not speak over the community if they're telling you that this is what this word means to them because it's what they are. There are a lot of definitions, like I said, that are on like official bisexual communities, and I have a lot of those bookmarked as well if you'd like to hear them. But my favorite one is, once again, by Robin Oakes. She says, really eloquently, I call myself bisexual because I acknowledge that I have in myself the potential to be attracted, romantically and or sexually, to people of more than one sex and or gender. Not necessarily at the same time, not necessarily in the same way, and not necessarily to the same degree. And I feel like that definition really covers it all, you know. I like to say I'm bi but not binary. You can actually identify as both bisexual and pansexual. You can actually identify as anything you want. And if somebody says their certain sexuality, believe them, because they know best about themselves. And if you're in this situation where somebody's arguing with you over your sexuality, whatever that sexuality may be, easiest thing to say is, I'm the expert in myself, and I know what I am. We're just going to have to disagree on that. So, you know, people are what they say they are, no matter what. Straight passing is the last thing I want to talk about tonight. Straight passing is the idea that people, especially bisexual people, are perceived as straight and therefore gain straight privilege. I've heard it termed as a get out of gay free card. I actually heard it termed like that. This is harmful in a lot of different ways, starting with my sexuality being mislabeled is not a privilege. It is by erasure. I don't want to be perceived as straight. I don't want to be perceived as gay. I actually don't want anything to be assumed about my sexuality. And I just want, if somebody to ask me what I am and I say bisexual, for that to be recognized and not argued with. So, this comes up a lot, straight passing in biphobia. A lot of people who don't like bisexual people, who, in the queer community especially, will bring this up. But the idea that you're only oppressed if you're in a homosexual couple is completely ridiculous. My experiences and my oppression are not determined nor validated by my partner, no matter who that is. It's not straight privilege when I talk about how cute a girl is and somebody asks me if me and my boyfriend have had a threesome, which is incredibly inappropriate. Never ask a bisexual person that. That's a real life experience that many bisexual people have and don't do.
Don't just never ask anybody that.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a good policy.
unless there's a precursor to
Yeah,
that.
that's like part of the conversation. Just go.
Having sex with him.
But if you're just asking because their sexuality, don't. So that's not straight privilege. I still face prejudices in the straight and the queer community, and having this biphobia is only making it harder for bisexual people to feel at home anywhere. So here are some problems that bi people face, and you'll notice that a lot of them are very similar to the other people in the queer community, because we're in the queer community. So those are being pressured to date someone of the opposite gender to fit in. I had one girlfriend when I was 16, and my mom told me none of my family could find out, and she very much pressured me into not being with her anymore to get a boyfriend, and maybe that has to do with the fact that I haven't had any other girlfriends except for her. Being grossly underrepresented in the media, like talked about that before, bi-erasure. Females being grossly over-sexualized in the media. Lesbian ladies know what I'm talking about. Transsexual ladies know what I'm talking about. It's very fresh. I remember when I first was going to come out, I started asking people around me what they thought of bisexual people, and literally every single person said, it's okay if they're girls, but it's not if they're guys, because it's so sexualized. And that's the male gaze, the heterosexual male gaze, and it needs to be stopped. Another in that category as well, females being used in porn to cater to heterosexual males' fantasy, which is why when a guy hears I'm bisexual, he feels like it's okay to ask me if I've been with a girl or tell me he wants to see me with a girl. And no, that's not okay at all. Telling people you like the same gender and being told it's a phase. Getting weird looks for being with people of the same gender. Just because I'm bi doesn't mean I get to get out of that. When I held hands with my girlfriend, I still got weird looks. Feeling pressure to dress gay to make your sexuality clear. feeling pressure to dress straight to keep your sexuality hidden, being accused of being too feminine or too masculine not to be straight, you know. Oh, but you're just so cute. You can't be bi. You can't not be straight. That doesn't even make sense. But anyway, being told you should dress more like a girl if you're attracted to girls. This is a shared experience with lesbians and bisexuals. I am the least feminine person of my immediate family, which is all women, and my mom's like always telling me I should be more feminine, and you know, you hear, well, if you like girls, then why don't you dress more like a girl? And that's really frustrating. And getting hate from other queer people over who you're attracted to, which comes directly from the idea of straight passing and the biphobia. So there are actually a lot more issues, obviously, that are more serious, including extremely high rates of domestic abuse, suicide, and rape in the bisexual community as opposed to heterosexual and homosexual people. A lot of those are actually higher, and maybe it's because different reasons. The over-sexualization can play a part in that, especially in rape. So these are things that we deal with that shouldn't be just not accounted for just because some of us look like we're straight, whatever that means. In fact, it's incredibly transphobic to use the argument of straight passing, because trans people can be bi too. Non-binary people can be bi too. But the bisexual community is actually really interesting because it's so diverse. So, like, a lot of the times, all we have in common is that we're bisexual. And it's a lot of different people, and it's ridiculous to say that we all get straight privilege and being bisexual is a terrible thing, because that's not necessarily true with a lot of people. So, some people argue that everyone receives some sort of straight privilege, but the only people who get straight privilege are straight people. And we all have different privileges that we have that we need to recognize, but you shouldn't discredit an entire group that's struggling and silence them for the experiences of some. So a lot of the resources that I use and that I talked about tonight are bisexual-community.tumblr.com. That's an amazing blog. They're really supportive, they're really funny, they just pretty much everything you need for your daily dose of bisexual. Daily dose of bisexual. And byresource.net, which features the writer Tiggy Upland, who is a bisexual woman, and she is fantastic. Tiggy? Tiggy. With a G. Tiggy Upland, yeah. Who, I don't want to brag, but she follows my blog. But she writes the very, very amusing and way too relatable, you might be bisexual when, with apologies to Jeff Foxworthy, that include, if the answer to when did you lose your virginity requires a chart, you might be bisexual. And when you feel, how do you say that word? Solidarity with redheads because their women are over-sexualized and their men are shunned, you might be bisexual. On a side note, I'm bisexual and my boyfriend's a redhead, so perfect. And then I also have some of the statistics for a lot of the things that I said here tonight, so if you guys want to know any of those, you can, or any of the other definitions for bisexuality, you can ask me and I'll pull them out for you. So that was it for me. So we're going to do a Q&A panel with me and Aiden. Or anything that was unclear or Any questions you have about our...
Here's a pro for the bisexual community. I'm gay, but I've been with a bisexual guy. And the thing is when he's with the guy, he's with guys. When he's with girls, he's with girls. There's no plenty. I don't even know transgender people that are bisexual. So there's a wide spectrum, you know, like you name it. There's degrees, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, from straight all the way to gay. And I go to NCC church, so I know all sorts of kind of people. So the myth about them being so promiscuous, no, they're just, you know, if they're single at the time and they so happen to find someone they're attracted to, a male, if they're a male and they find a male that they're attracted to, then they go with that person. If they're single and they find a female that they want to be with, then they go with the female. Either which way, it doesn't mean, it's just like with a gay or straight person, just because a straight person, you know, sees someone, you know, they like, it doesn't mean to hop into bed with them, or, you know, or that they're promiscuous themselves for being straight, gay, or bi. It doesn't really matter. But I know a lot of bisexual people that are not promiscuous. Who they're with at the time is who they're with at the time, whether it's a guy or a girl, it doesn't matter to them, but, you know, it's who they prefer at the time. It doesn't make them promiscuous. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm promiscuous, but it's not because I'm promiscuous. There's a lot of other factors.
Yeah, believe it or not, you're gonna be promiscuous. No matter who you like. We'll figure out a way.
And I know it's been my experience that when people call you promiscuous, they tend to be jealous that you just have more options.
My boyfriend joked today that bisexual people are greedy with people. Everyone.
No, we still have standards.
Other questions, comments?
Forgive me for not really understanding some of the terminology. I lived most of my life as a Republican. You used the term binary sexuality, and could you dive a little deeper into that? Like, what do you mean by that, and then how does that relate to bisexuality and how you don't like to use that term when discussing bisexuality?
The gender binary is the idea that there are two genders in this world.
So there's zeros and ones.
Yep.
There's a lot of 2s and 5s and 6. There's some A's in there. There's some letters all over. There's some colors.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
it's just
0.5.
Fractions. No fractions.
So, generally, people are discussed as, we live in an incredibly heteronormative society, so people are discussed as men and women. And those men and women are assumed to be cisgendered. If you guys don't know what cisgendered means, it's your genitalia, your sex matches up with your gender. Your genitalia matches up with who you are. And alternatively, there's transgender people who aren't, who their genitalia does not match up with who they are. And I have no problem being attracted to